What images come to mind when you hear the word occultism? Let me guess, Satan, dark rituals, spiritism, and of course, this Austrian artist. For decades, this word has been used to frighten us from TV screens, pronounced with a sense of mystery and revulsion. Meanwhile, speakers with a mundane frequency have tried to avoid explaining the essence of the term, assuming it to be self-evident. Everyone knows what occultism is, right? As the result, the word has turned into a label for something sinful and forbidden, like he who shall not be named. Today we'll try to understand what occultists were actually doing and what they are doing now, where this term came from, and what role occult sciences have played in the development of human society. Most people's ideas about the occult have been shaped by how it's portrayed on television and in Hollywood movies. The goal there was very simple: to scare the audience and grab attention by exaggerating everything to the extreme. This is what a typical occultist looks like in popular culture. But here's what a typical 19th century occultist looked like: Alphonse Louis Constant, also known as Eliphas Levi. He was a former Catholic priest, philosopher, and writer who created incredibly beautiful prose on the nature of the mysterious. And here's what a typical early 20th century occultist looked like: Rudolf Steiner. He was a philosopher, educator, lecturer, and social reformer. He gave thousands of lectures across Europe and brought revolutionary ideas to the various fields of life, from education and agriculture to theater and architecture. Plato, Pythagoras, Paracelsus, the father of toxicology, Thomas Edison, and Nikola Tesla each made significant contributions to the development of occult sciences. Don't believe it? Then let's clarify once and for all what occultism really is. The problem with the term occultism is that over time, different authors have imbued it with very different, sometimes even opposing meanings. Let's start with the fact that the word occultism comes from the Latin word occultus, meaning hidden, secret, or concealed, meaning the knowledge of what is hidden. Even today, there are areas of scientific knowledge that remain concealed due to the lack of genius capable of uncovering the answers. Imagine what was going on in people's minds when science was just beginning. There were countless hidden principles that religion couldn't explain. In this vacuum, various magical philosophies, alchemy, and astrology began to emerge. Later, at the end of the 19th century, the French philosopher, magician, and tarot reader Eliphas Levi would use the term occultism in his books Dogma and the Ritual of High Magic and The Great Arcanum, or revealed occultism. But this doesn't mean that occultism didn't exist before that. It all began a very long time ago. Origins of occultism. Historically, European occultism originates from a religious type of thinking with roots in antiquity, commonly characterized as Western esotericism. Its sources include Gnosticism, Hermetic texts on alchemy and magic, Neoplatonism, and Kabbalah. One cannot overlook an important figure from the Hellenistic period that many sources reference: Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great. It remains unclear whether he was a real historical figure or a combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god of wisdom Thoth. Nevertheless, his name is associated with one of the most significant esoteric teachings upon which Western esotericism is based: Hermeticism. Hermeticism is a doctrine concerning the higher laws of nature, which adhere to the principles of causality and analogy. Throughout various periods in Europe, numerous occult orders based on Hermetic teachings existed, such as the Rosicrucian Order, the Order of the Golden Dawn, the Alpha and Omega Order, the Church of Light, and many others. Isaac Newton, Francis Bacon, Copernicus, and others paid homage to Hermeticism as a significant doctrine. Although modern occultism has been represented in various forms, it has had a primary aim: Behind the diverse systems like astrology and palmistry, doctrines of theosophy, anthroposophy, and even earlier teachings of the Rosicrucians, Kabbalists, and alchemists lay a clear desire to reconcile the findings of natural sciences with a religious worldview. This goal was explicitly stated by the renowned medieval mystic and magician Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa in the preface to his seminal work, Natural Magic, where he combined contemporary folk magical beliefs with the Aristotelian concept of the four elements, which was foundational to the medicine of his time. Agrippa wrote about magical science, contrasting it with mere sorcery. His works also inspired Eliphas Levi. Occult Renaissance. The Renaissance era in Europe was marked by a surge in the popularity of occultism within society. During this period, countless secret societies and various occult orders were established. Members often included wealthy, educated individuals, representatives of the middle class, creative intellectuals, and elites. It was not uncommon for one person to belong to multiple orders simultaneously. For example, 3 of the founders of the Order of the Golden Dawn were Freemasons and members of the Rosicrucian Brotherhood. However, that was not enough for them. Let's be honest, regardless of what people might say, individuals joined various orders at that time in hopes of advancing socially, engaging in a kind of occult networking. It's somewhat similar to today's frenzy over purchasing various altcoins, hoping that some of them will eventually give a lot of profit. It is important to note, like all elements of human culture, occultism has evolved by discarding and forgetting some ideas while bringing others to the forefront, in tune with the times. Unlike many ancient systems that rejected social life, modern occult schools actively incorporate social issues into their practices, viewing society as a kind of testing ground necessary for the development of the student or for assessing their level of advancement. For the sake of fairness, the ability to work with emotions was a significant element in Zen and medieval yoga. However, it was only in the 20th century, thanks to the work of Gurdjieff, that achieving a state of awareness and wholeness became a central component of occult practices accepted by other schools. Occultism in the 20th century. Another surge in popularity and development of occultism occurred at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th centuries. On one hand, there was a growing interest in spiritualism in America, and on the other hand, there was Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society. While spiritualism was a brief fad among some occult societies, it left an indelible mark on popular culture, as photography had become available by this time. This combination led many people to associate occultism with seances where individuals attempted to summon spirits, like Napoleon and other confectionaries. The infamous photograph of such a seance, which has become a meme, frequently comes to mind when we hear the word occultism. Let us know in the comments if this is the case for you. And now about Blavatsky. What happened? Before her influence, Western civilization was engaged in a form of self-admiration, considering itself the cultural pinnacle of the world, destined to bring the light of civilization to other peoples. However, Blavatsky's earlier works cast doubt on this concept, revealing that there were secrets in the East unknown to the Western world. Though Blavatsky did not unveil these secrets, she succeeded in convincing the West of their existence, instilling a reverent awe for Eastern culture. This newfound interest in all things Eastern allowed the West to tap into some immense spiritual energy that Eastern cultures had preserved for thousands of years. This influx of spiritual energy, along with new knowledge and worldviews that came to the West as revelations, sparked the simultaneous emergence of various esoteric movements and directions across different countries. Western culture decided to confront the East and began exploring the human being not merely as a rational machine or a bipedal creature, but as a complex and profoundly bodily mystery. Also, this led to the rise of alternative systems such as natural medicine, herbal healing, vegetarianism, nudism, and life within autonomous rural communes, among others. During this period, the successes of 19th century physics, chemistry, and biology led to a natural desire to integrate these scientific advancements into the occult worldview, using new discoveries, often mythologized to describe occult phenomena. Literature at the time is filled with descriptions of experiments, the methods of which were clearly borrowed from natural sciences. Occult phenomena were explained through concepts like magnetic waves, X-rays, following their discovery by Röntgen, and so on. In the spirit of the era, various devices were created to enhance occult abilities, such as waveguides for conducting magnetic waves for telepathy experiments, and other similar inventions. Another key figure in occultism during this period was the Austrian philosopher Rudolf Steiner. After spending 10 years as a theosophist, he branched off to create his own, more practical and humanistic doctrine, anthroposophy. To put it briefly, Steiner extended the reach of his ideas into nearly every aspect of human life, and we still feel the echoes of his work today. Waldorf education, Stanislavski and Chekhov's acting systems, and organic farming all contain seeds of Steiner's ideas. In addition to this, Steiner worked on social reforms, explored Christianity, established the school of spiritual science, and studied practical phenomena such as clairvoyance and extrasensory perception. He also delved into the question of karma and life after death from the perspective of multiple incarnations of the soul. Although he wrote books, most of the information about his ideas is available in the form of textual records of his numerous lectures, which were attended by hundreds and thousands of people across different countries. I could say that Steiner's philosophy crystallized the very task of occultism, reconciling natural sciences with spiritual knowledge. However, we must address the role of occult teachings in shaping the ideology of German National Socialism. For many, Nazi Germany and occultism became almost synonymous. Hitler and the occult. It is no secret that the Nazis used various ancient symbols, reworked them in their own ways, and very effectively influenced people's subconscious using propaganda. The movie Triumph of the Will, the ritual marches with fire and flags, and Hitler's speeches, which can be discussed at P&L lessons. At the same time, there are records of numerous repressions by the Third Reich against magicians, astrologers, and psychics, whom the Nazi regime also considered suspicious. The truth is that in Nazi Germany, everything was approached with maximum pragmatism. After coming to power in 1933, the Nazis took control of astrologers and clairvoyants, just as they did with other three professions of the Weimar Republic. It is impossible to assert whether the Nazis had a positive or negative attitude towards occultism. Their policies on any given issue frequently changed, sometimes reversing direction completely. Many people fall into the trap of confusing cause and effect in this context. It was not the occult beliefs of Hitler's associates that led him to commit atrocities, but rather a diseased mindset, psychological issues, and an insatiable lust for power. Occult symbols merely served as tools to bolster belief and enhance the visual impact of the pro-Hitler movement. Knowledge is power, and each individual decides how to use it. It is true that occult societies like the Fuel Society and the Ahnenerbe were aligned with Hitler. At that time, about 40% of the European intellectuals were involved in occultism. Naturally, they were involved in the war on one side or the other. The truth is, an occult worldview, much like a belief in a Christian or other deity, did not determine whether people would follow Hitler or oppose him. A clear example illustrating the point is Adolf Hitler's criticism of Rudolf Steiner in 1921. In an article published in a right-wing newspaper, Hitler attacked Steiner as a tool of the Jews and called on other German national extremists to wage a war against Steiner. In 1922, Steiner's lecture in Munich was disrupted by an explosion of chemical bombs and a power outage, The influence of J. Krishnamurti's ideas and the New Age movement on the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s in the United States and Western Europe is undeniable. In the 1960s, a specific social movement emerged, spreading across countries and cultures. The New Age movement. There was a growing interest in exploring something beyond conventional understanding. Not necessarily Eastern, but beyond the known. Western individuals began to realize that the answers to their questions might not be found in the East, but somewhere within themselves. Different approaches to searching within oneself emerged. Some turned to primitive roots, leading to an interest in shamanism and a proliferation of books on the subject, including works by Carlos Castaneda, The Way of the Shaman by Michael Hahn, and others. At the same time, transpersonal psychology, developed by Stanislav Grof, also drew heavily on these layers of thought. But the most significant occult breakthrough of this period was surprisingly psychoanalysis. By several criteria, psychoanalysis can be considered an occult teaching. The core idea of psychoanalysis and its associated systems is indeed quite close to occultism. It is difficult to say whether this was a result of borrowing from previous knowledge, or if people arrived at these ideas independently, rediscovering concepts that had existed before. Freud's later concepts of libido and mortido essentially align with Buddhist teachings about the primal desires for life and death, known as nidanas, the causes of existence. The same can be said about Wilhelm Reich's organ theory and his concept of muscular armor, which closely aligns with the tantric concept of the chakra system. Carl Jung's system of archetypes is essentially his interpretive adaptation of knowledge from religions and occultism, viewed through the lens of psychology. Jung believed that the primary goal of each person was to achieve individuation. Many religions and spiritual practices, as well as modern occultism, fundamentally share this same objective. A key feature of teachings from this period was their extreme psychological orientation. Even the terminology used by these schools resembled more that of psychotherapy than traditional occultism. It could be said that the clear boundaries between psychological and occult schools have recently disappeared. Occultism today. Today, it is almost impossible to find any media outlet or publisher that does not offer readers or viewers an astrological forecast. Even the most reputable and supposedly academic publishers do not shy away from publishing occult literature, which has a dedicated section practically in every bookstore. These examples could go on indefinitely. Our time is marked by the utilitarianization of occult knowledge, meaning the knowledge is valued only when it can be applied in some way. While it is undoubtedly fascinating to explore one's unconscious or venture into the astral plane, sooner or later the question arises, so what? The question of how can this knowledge be applied in real life has been formulated in various interpretations by almost all occult schools. In recent years, worldview concepts, philosophy, and values of serving have played a significantly smaller role in occult systems. The idea of spiritual and personal development has become more instrumental, and social success has become a significant criteria for spiritual status. Practical techniques that aim to improve one's life, such as manipulative methods, have taken center stage. Overall, the concepts of contemporary occult schools are infused with a spirit of individualism, which is characteristic of modern mentality. Let's sum up. Occultism is a unique phenomenon in the spiritual life of society, aimed at reconciling the results of natural sciences and contemporary teachings with a religious worldview. In a broad sense, occultism, like traditional sciences, seeks to uncover the laws of reality that remain insufficiently understood. Although the methods of occult sciences have not always been scientific, occult perspectives, due to their widespread presence in literature, have often inspired writers, philosophers, and scientists. It has often happened that scientists made discoveries while attempting to either refute or confirm questions previously posed by occultists. Thus, occult philosophy frequently served as a supportive foundation for future scientific discoveries. An interesting pattern can be observed. In areas where science has made discoveries and proven certain theses, occult sciences have tended to lose their relevance and gradually disappear. However, there are still aspects of life that science has yet to illuminate, such as the subconscious, dreams, and life after death. These areas have become the small refuge where occult views and their adherents continue to find a place. I hope I've managed to dispel some myths about occultism and bring a bit of clarity to the topic. Subscribe to the channel, let us know in the comments what you'd like to hear about in the future videos, and see you next time in Guild of Secrets.